A recap of my beliefs. The basic fact of all human societies is that all human beings are born into a group of a mother and a father. These two persons had to mingle flesh so that each and every person on this planet could be produced. And this holds true even if scientific, so-called artificial means are used to facilitate the creation of life, because the sperm or egg cannot be created artificially, and thus a male and a female are still necessary for the procreation of life. This basic fact of human existence means that all radical individualism is utterly false at a minimum, and at a maximum a destructive belief, which wastes saved capital from the past and ensures that there is no productive future. This being said, it is also untrue that societies of humans are hives of bees. We cannot operate like insects do. This is not possible. The utopians are just as crazy as the radical individualists. Therefore, it follows, then, a middle ground must be found between these extremes, which allows for the individual to exist and the group to not be negated, and which allows for the group to exist and for the individual to not be negated. This may sound like some sort of mystic dualism, but this is only true if you accept the idea that individuals and groups are necessarily in conflict. Once you accept the reality that they complement each other, the apparent mysticism dissolves. A very solid proof for the necessity of groups to the existence of the individual can be demonstrated from nature, in which all humans live in tribes, villages, or some other group of at least an extended family. There is no man, woman, or child at home in the natural order of things who exists without a past, family, and or a society into which they were born. Yet on the other hand, there is no group that is not comprised of individuals. This fact cannot be gotten around. And again we see there is no conflict or contrary position between the group and the individual. They are complementary. The most basic group is again the family group, the mother, father, child group. Then it extends to the extended family, the grandparents, the cousins, then to tribes, then to nations. This is the natural, organic progression. Families are a proto-statelet, and clans are states in all but name. Now you'll notice the diagram that comes next just explains very simply that people put on land that work, produce things that they use or trade. Very simple stuff. From this basic reality of human social organizations, it follows that all societies must, like all families, find, make, ensure, the semantics are not important, a place for all their members. It is simply true that everyone in a society must have some use, purpose, or function in the society, or they shall become alienated and not hope for the best interests of the society at large. I think all of you under PC should understand that. Everyone must have a purpose. Everyone must put in, and everyone must get their right and just due. We can call that the basic doctrine right there. This is the most basic moral doctrine of any correct political, social, economic system. Anything else is not satisfactory and must be rejected. In our modern terms, this means that each head of household must have a homestead, gainful work that will provide for the upkeep of said homestead, and that these two bedrock conditions must be legally protected from economic, social, or legal forces. Otherwise, in time, men with money will ensure that some citizens are pauperized and cannot properly raise families to increase the citizen body. Thus, to make it more general, it follows from the above that a just society restrains economics to the needs and interests of the members of the society, and that further a just society views the components of society all the way down to the tribes, families, and people as members of a larger family, or if you will, as parts of an organic whole, all having needs and all contributing to the common good. Yes, it is true that the above means in part that each and every one won't get to do just as they please. That is true. But nothing in it should be implied to mean that anyone would be stopped from earning an honest living. Honest shall be defined to mean not legal, but morally correct, with the above precept about everyone getting their just due, everyone having a purpose, counting very strongly. In the natural order of things, work, physical and mental, are the means to meet the needs of both the individual and the group, which at a minimum are food, clothing, shelter, and lastly, frankly, some sort of weaponry with which to protect these other things. Work is also an end to ensure that each has their means to contribute to the common good. It is important that psychologically each think himself to be an active part of the community's life as such to ensure their loyalty to the community. Thus, from this odd view, work is both an end and a means to other ends. Also, it must be admitted that in the natural order of things, there are only so many hours to every day, and that only so many of these hours can be put to work, and allow for the conditions above outlined which necessitate a certain amount of leisure time for the citizens. Thus, without a right to work and earn one's way, a place to stay, clothes on one's back, food in one's belly, and a sufficient amount of time left over to live well, the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are meaningless and empty promises. They were, after all, proclaimed by very, very wealthy men. After all, and in truth, poor people didn't dream them up. I think they would have wanted bread. In fact, it is only when these basic conditions of food, clothing, shelter are met that anything like freedom or any other abstract concept has any real meaning whatsoever. As there are, in all practical realities, going to be very few to any starving, penniless, vagabond, philosopher, scientist, mathematician, great world leaders. And this is an overreaching fact. The opposite is also true, that any livelihood, work, occupation, whatever you wish to call it, which does not provide for these minimal conditions is no just work at all and is not right or correct in any way, shape, or form. So, I shall go far as to state that any work which uses up a significant portion of the workday over any significant amount of the week should pay a living wage, as that work/time can never be had back, and the person must yet eat and be housed and clothed. And the basic reality is that workers live and thus require living wages. There are no exceptions. From all this, it follows that it is obvious that any just, stable, and proper polity for a citizen to have any meaningful use of what we conveniently call rights, he must have his needs in life met, and still have the time necessary to enjoy his life and engage in the pursuits required of free citizens in a free state. He must have education and leisure as well as the opportunity to work, by which work to earn a livelihood for his family and by extension his nation's organic being. I think we have proven that point and hammered it home in every way possible. Economics was invented by human beings for their ends. Humans do not exist for economic ends. Thus, any theory or belief that postulates that economics control men or that modes of production are dominant over human will is false, since it is a penultimate truth that human activity, i.e. human will, create economics and all value judgments as we know them now, there being no mode of production in nature sans human beings. The small matters, thus all matters of economics are merely matters of human will, money merely being an invention of our minds. It is absurd that it should be our master. In a preceding paragraph, effects were discussed briefly. Economics has a great number of unintended consequences when it is simply allowed to be pursued blindly for pure personal profit and with no regard for anyone else. Part of these effects which should be taken into account are, of course, the effects that any large-scale industrial action has on the environment around us, as that environment is our home writ large. This is not to say that we should abandon industrial society. It is only to say that we should balance the needs of an industrial society with the realities of what nature can and cannot absorb in the line of pollutants, destruction, and the rest. This is also to say that natural resources should not be used willy-nilly to the benefit of private companies and the loss of the commons. The simple fact is that no company, no person, no group of persons have a right, nor ideally should have any legal ability to do the common people harm for mere return on investment or market gain. The idea would be similar to saying, in the days of the cave, one person should have the right to hoard the food and sell it all to the others. Do you think your ancestors would have tolerated being treated like this? But this is the market, where some hoard and some go hungry. And you market-worshipping golden calf worshippers call this moral and just. But I say a market, the market, as you know, was born in theft, a royal theft at that, and that its freedoms are never free, and quite the contrary, are always attached to interest, debt, pauperization, resource depletion, overextension, and eventually slavery, which in the long term ensures societal collapse. The market demands more resources from nature, eventually, than can be had, and thus it is a false paradigm. You cannot have nature plus nature. I mean, there's no such thing. A further truth is that if you look at the birth of both the Bolshevik economy and the early English economy, both the English and the Bolshevik economy feature the same sorts of population transfers, murders of the commons, thefts of the commonwealth, and consolidation in the hands of a few favorites. Thus, the common paradigm in which there is a free market in communism, a controlled market in a free market, are false contrasts. They have no real validity. There is always a controlled market, regulated under law. It's only a matter of what law, enforced by whom. The fact is that I believe, yes, you should be free to engage in commerce or economics. That follows from the right to work above, but only if that commerce is honest and not destructive to the homeland, the hearths, and or the common citizenry who make up the base of the social system upon which you engage in commerce. That is to say, insomuch as you engage in commerce honestly and within the rules as established for the common good, you shall be let alone and protected by the might of the state with the blessings of all good men. It is as easy as following the rules, paying taxes, and doing call-ups, like all the rest of the citizens, really. I see nothing here that does great injury to anyone's ability to engage in honest, fair business. Those of you, on the other hand, who would wish to do underhanded business, who would wish to cheat the nation by doing business with foreigners at the expense of the nation, you'll be driven out like vipers, routed out for the good of all, as Andy Jackson put it. From here, it is only a matter of choosing a political system. It will be a mixed system. I advise the tried and true combination of a head of state, a council, and an assembly of the people. From all time to all time, this repeats, and you won't escape it. The only thing that remains is to determine if you or if others, based upon whatever qualification shall do the controlling. The diagram that follows indicates my preferences. This is actually the most simple part, as if you have a proper society and economic order, there is little for the political arm to take care of outside of national defense and keeping basic order amongst the constituent parts of the states, of the state itself, of the people basically, keep them from killing each other. Proper society, of course, is one in which the men over a certain age determine for the rest what shall be and what shall not be, by means of first their familial authority, that is their authority over their own families, over their own homes, which is then translated into political control over the polity. The only system that works is to tie voting with call-up and paying tax, while simply only allowing men to do call-up. Anything else is modernist subversion, period. In reality, this is the most stable social form ever found, and that is why the modernist PC bots hate it so, as it is a very hard nut to crack. Even the limpid remnants are giving them a good go. Thus, the return of masculinity has them terrified. You can drive nature out, but it always comes back. Especially the confused members of the feminine half of the species, who have grown to like lording it over the beta males, who put up with them lording it over them. This planned revolt against patriarchy, so that you know, which is normalcy by any other name, is outlined by Friedrich Engels in several of his works, and to a lesser extent by Karl Marx. It is also a common theme amongst the 68er commies and the Frankfurter schoolers, who are commonly understood to be political correctness or cultural Marxism. Traditional society was destroyed, harpy by harpy, Harridan by Harridan, Jewish mother by Jewish mother. And this is where men who reject PC must run straight into modernity's main supporters, the quote-unquote liberated women, the free adult 18 to 21-year-old stupid children, who, between the bulk of them, make up the vast majority of voters. These voting blocs are the reason sanity can never be had at the polls, as females are not reasonable and children are dull. Thus, both are easily tricked by the media into doing what is expected of them. Even the ones that think that I'm not with the media, they vote for the opposition party like clockwork, because girls always play the safe bet. Fortunately, voting is only an option. That's full option. At least any vote that includes anyone not born with a penis whom is over a certain age of understanding is fully an option. There's no reason to just allow everyone to vote, because the real fact is that a group of angry, upset adult men who have a large enough mass and distribution over a given territory have no need of these liberal concepts that have allowed all this insanity called political correctness. Come close, I'll let you in on a secret. Liberal modernity can lie to itself, but males are always the strong backs and sharp spears that keep any system standing. They are the supports upon which it sits in all times and places, and this does not and cannot evolve without the degenerate display that is matriarchal modernity around you. Okay? Once the men trapped by this abnormal and unnatural system mentally defect and realize, confirm that their interests are no longer served by this PC egalitarianism and modernity, then it is absolutely assured that something very much like the patriarchal society I call for will reemerge from the rubble and rebuild among the ruins that is modern PC matriarchy. It is assured since once the goodies, services, and the games, video and otherwise, can no longer distract the young men, and they realize that they have been robbed of their future by mommy PC and the matriarchs, homos, minorities, and other churls who hide behind the quote-unquote system, is my feeling they would do what any white man would do: slap reality back in the line. Thank you.